What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Or welcome to the channel if it's your first time. It's your boy Mansa here today. That is Super Bowl. Yes, this is Super Bowl 52 sweatshirt. My Super Bowl 59 hoodie should be coming in next week. But, listen, we ain't got to talk about all that. It's been a while. Everybody's over the, Super Bowl win and all that. But either way, we're going to be talking about some video games today. More particularly or in specifics, we're going to be talking about things I like and dislike around the video game industry. And, I wanted this video to not be, super negative because it can easily be. But what I did was I'm pretty much going to take 5 things. We're going to go back and forth. Things I like, then things I don't like, things I like and things I don't like. And then we'll end on a good note because, this video was kind of inspired by a little bit of negativity, just a lot of stuff you're seeing online nowadays. Everything's a civil war, a culture war, this side versus that side, anti-vax, men versus women, like entrepreneurs versus 9-to-5s. Like it's getting out of control. And that kind of inspired me to think of this video and just some things I haven't, talked about in a while, some things that have changed in the industry. I've done probably smaller individual videos on some of these topics, but this is kind of bringing that all together. So if you're new to the channel, please do hit that like button, hit that notification bell, and then hot shot that subscribe button to become part of the family we are building here on the channel. Now let's get right into it. So like I said, I don't want the video to be fully negative, so we're going to start positive with something I do like. And one thing I do like about the gaming industry or the gaming sphere right now is just the way it's expanded, the community, the way it's gone, starting off as in forums and things like that to what it is now, to the point where you're watching me talk about it right now on YouTube on my own channel. Back in the day, we kind of relied on forums or IGN.com and GameSpot and G4 TV and things like that. But, it's really expanded. I mean, these things did start as, individual, entrepreneurial websites and things like that. But then, they kind of turned into these huge media conglomerates, similar to, a Fox News or CNN. Obviously not as much money as those companies, but, still, it's great that these publications still exist. That's even expanded for some, former hosts or people that used to be on the show to have their own, independent media platforms. You have Last Stand Media with Colin Moriarty. You have Tim Geddes and Greg Miller with Kind of Funny Games, where, they're taking their influence they had from working at IGN and getting interviews with some of the big industry, developers and people higher up, CEOs and things like that. And then even down to, YouTubers like Mr. Matty Plays. He got an interview with Todd Howard, which I'm sure was like a dream of his to ever do. If you told Maddie when he was in high school he would be able to interview him at his age now, he probably wouldn't believe you. To go along with Gamertag Radio and other independent platforms like that. So overall, I just like that there's a space where this has grown to, there's giant discords and how big streaming is. And I was just telling my wife, some of these people aren't streaming video games, but they started off streaming video games and now they're highlighted at all-star games and the Pro Bowl and all these kind of things. Like, video games have gone so big, like to the point where people are, able to take care of their family with supplemental income or even replacing their day-to-day job off this hobby that we all love just growing up. So I just love the expansion of where video games is as far as the community, as far as it as a business, as far as it as opportunities for people to do things that they always dream to do. And I can't say anything better about it, and I hope it continues into the future. Now with my second point, which is something I don't like about the gaming industry, and it's just inflation, man. We can say anything with inflation, whether you want to talk about game budgets. There are these rumors or rumblings or even news articles saying like, hey, we hope that GTA is going to be $100 game because we want to be able to, charge that for our games. We've seen the games with this generation recently go up to $70. They were $60 for the longest. And I know people talk about what it was back in the day and things like that, but man, the thought of spending $100 on a game, and I feel like gaming companies are kind of looking at it in a sense of what people are spending on a game overall like when you take into account, let's say, microtransactions and DLC and add-ons and premium upgrades and collector's edition, things like that, it's like, yeah, sometimes we do spend $100 on stuff. Like I spent, I think it was 130 on that Zelda right there, that Tears of the Kingdom collection or whatever. But it's like, at least we know up front that's what the cost is and what you're getting with it and everything. This just charging $100 just for the base, form of a game is, I don't agree with it at all. Obviously I do. Like, why would I? Like, it's like no one in their right mind is like, oh, I'll pay $100 game. I think there are probably, you could name maybe like 3 games that are worth $100. I think GTA 6, yes, it will be. And yes, we're probably psyching our mind to think it that way. But that, like, the new 3D Zelda game that comes out is as big as Tears of the Kingdom, you could charge $100 for that. Maybe like a 3D Mario, like something like, it's a very, the fact that games are now, there's a standard for how much games cost. Yeah, there are $40 games, $50 games, even smaller games than that, but the standard being $100 cannot happen. And it's not just the cost of these games, right? It's the budgets, right? The games costing, we're seeing games cost $300 million, $400 million, things like that. The point where Shuhei Yoshida said, hey, you guys want new games and sequels, then you gotta buy these remakes and remasters, right? If we're gonna make Last of Us, the remake part 3 for the 4th time or whatever, like, you gotta buy it. And I think, that's just not a good message, I think, to send to people, because these should be options, right? For people that haven't played it or they want the option to play it, sure, but don't say if you want a sequel, you have to support this. A lot of people don't like buying the same game a million times over and over again. Maybe they'll play it a million times over and over again because they already own it, but y'all can't be doing that to us. And on top of all that, we're getting these games so much less and less frequent. Like everyone always says in the, let's say, the Xbox 360, PS3 era, you don't even have to go back to the N64 or anything like that. Like, you were getting like 3 Uncharted games on there. I think you got all 3 Mass Effects, the trilogy. You got all 3 of the Gears on there. Like, games were coming out every 2 years or so in a series. Maybe 2 years in between the first and second one, then 3 years or 4 years, and you get it on the tail end of a generation. But now we're getting 1 game in a series per generation. Like, it's insane. And of course, that comes with the territory of bigger budgets and how much we expect from video games and always having to do better and all this kind of stuff. But man, at some point, the industry has to get together and course correct this. We're seeing the bloated games, they're buggy at launch, layoffs all over the place when the games don't sell. Certain, even big companies, you're getting all this record revenue and everything, but it's like you have one bad game and now you're in limbo about where you got to be. Now you got to sell yourself off. Like, it's a very like 50-50 industry right now. No matter how much money you have or how successful your games are, or how much you sell, it's okay, you sell a bunch, but it costs $400 million to make the game, and you got licensing fees with Star Wars and Marvel and all this stuff. It's like, bro, at some point, it has to get to a sustainable level at some point. And now we could talk about a thing I do like, which is, I just like the options, man. I think there's a lot of options out there, and you could attribute that to how the industry has expanded and, the different development studios and things like that, where everything doesn't have to be a big, $400 million game like I was mentioning before. Like, I love the smaller AA experiences. I love the, indie games we had, like Sea of Stars and games like that, or Chain Echoes and smaller games like that are, $30, but you get your money's worth. There's lots of care into the games. You're even getting content creators and YouTubers, developing or publishing games like Animal Well that came out last year that a lot of people liked. Like, I like that there's a million options of games to play. There's free to play games like Marvel Rivals and Fortnite. There's subscription services like Game Pass that we'll talk about in the next section, but I just like that there's a million, not only just types of games, but ways to play. As in, if you want to, get a subscription service, you can. If you want to buy a lower tier game that's $30, you can. If you want to wait for a game to go on sale that's, you know, a AAA experience, you can. If you want to buy it right off the bat, you can. If you want to get early access to it, you can. Like, there's just a million ways to play now. You know, back in the days, it was literally like, hey, you get maybe one game a year or two games, or you gotta wait till the holiday times or a sale, or like there wasn't a lot, or you had to just wait for the big game that everybody's, you know, clamoring for and all that. There wasn't a whole bunch of, yeah, there were smaller games that companies will put out, but it's like there weren't a million developers, or the fact that they have smaller studios within with, you know, that they own, that they can make the smaller experiences with, you know, teaming up with other publishers and developers and funding the game. You're getting what we're calling second party games and things like that. Like, I just think there's a lot of different experiences to be had, in a lot of ways to experience those experiences. And now we get to what I don't like, which was, again, the kind of the driving force for me even thinking of doing this video. So the main thing I don't like is the console war, man. And it's not just console warring, because that's always existed, you know, Sega Genesis versus Nintendo, Super Nintendo, you know, PlayStation, Nintendo 64, PS2, Xbox, and GameCube. And competition is great. Console wars is like, it's fun, it's funny. Like, we never hated these people, but I think with the addition of social media and the internet, it's now led to like people literally saying vile and crazy things to people. It's added a sense of delusion to a lot of people. Like, we're seeing people just being disingenuous about their favorite platform. And now, I've said it a million times, I like Xbox / PC now, because I own one, is like, that is my preferred platform to play. But I play everything, and I don't think Xbox is necessarily 100% better in every aspect above Nintendo and PlayStation. But like, some people are just being disingenuous with this stuff. Like, we can talk about, oh, the rent pass, as they keep calling it with Game Pass. It's like, okay, if Xbox, even though I think it's a dumb argument, if Xbox, the only way you could buy a game was through Game Pass, then you have a valid, you know, insult there, I guess. But it's, bro, you can still buy games. I still buy games for Xbox sometimes. If it's not on Game Pass, yeah, I'm a subscriber, but if it's not on there, I get it. If it's a game I really want to play and I don't want to keep the subscription, I could buy it for a discount. I can, you know, cloud stream. Like, there's a lot of different ways. And like, let's not act like our whole lives we didn't want games for cheap. If you told 10-year-old you, or even 17-year-old you, that you could pay monthly price, play all these games, you would, like, who would say that? Like, are you bragging that you're paying $70 on PlayStation for all your games? Or like, oh, we own our games, we get to, or we got physical over here, y'all don't got. It's like, bro, but I don't even get into the physical digital thing, but none of us are buying physical anymore, technically. Like, none of us own these games. We're renting licenses. Let people do what they want to do. I think it's a great option for people. Instead of, if they want to try out some games, they can buy it if they want. That needs to stop. And then on the flip side, for Xbox fans, or Xbots as they're calling them, you gotta be, listen, we gotta admit when Xbox is not doing so hot, or like making decisions that were just like, oh yeah, sure, okay, makes sense. It's like, Xbox is doing what it needs to do for their business, but let's not act like, oh, everyone's just so excited for their games to go to PlayStation, or them, you know, not putting so much dedication to the hardware, or Game Pass subs being stagnant and things like that. It's like, yeah, overall, if this is what they need to do to survive and keep delivering games, then yes, we're all for it. But you know, there is that sense of, hey, we need competition as well to some degree. And it seems like Xbox is kind of not fully thrown in the towel. I've, you know, stayed away from saying that because I don't believe they are, but we can't act like if they were the dominant game, you know, out of the big three, the dominant, you know, publisher, that they would be doing all these moves and we would just be championing it. Like, we gotta, you know, keep it a buck on that. Then on the PlayStation side, y'all can't, like, you gotta call them out for what they're doing. Some of these, you know, nickel and diamond, the $20 stands, and the taking this away that you used to have, and the same thing that Apple does. But listen, if you're gonna just pay for it, but don't act like they the most consumer friendly, whatever. And then if we want to talk about Nintendo, like Nintendo people just act like everything they put out is so exciting, and it's like, okay, if you can accept that, yes, we know gameplay is over graphics, but listen, a lot of time Nintendo was just putting out a bunch of ports from their old system, especially the Wii U, because it was failed so much, and it was smart because it failed so much. Put the ports over on the Switch, sells millions of copies, it works. Everyone's excited for the Switch too, because there's every video that's coming out is, okay, what ports are going to come over? It's like, bro, listen, I like the Switch. I like that it's, you know, I grew up with Nintendo. I like that it's mobile and all this kind of stuff, but I'm not that excited for the Switch too. I'm excited for a new 3D Mario, whatever they do with Zelda, some of their first party stuff, and whatever new experiences they have. If we're going to get a ton of ports of games that I already played, or games I can play on more powerful hardware, we assume is going to be more powerful hardware, then I don't care. Like, people acting like the Switch 2 is about to sell better than the Switch, which I don't think is possible, because the Switch was the thing, right? And if there's going to be a lot of cross, you know, stuff like they're not that audience that's going to buy the newest hardware, or they need to get the latest and greatest and all that, and it's going to be $400 possibly, or $450, whatever. Like, man, I don't know. Everybody needs to just listen. We call the companies when they screw up. We be honest about it, and we coexist. We could do little light jabs and jokes about each other's, you know, preferred platform, but like, it's getting to a point where like I literally can't be on gaming Twitter or some of the YouTube videos. It's just like, bro, people just say whatever. But yeah. Then the last thing, let's end it on a positive note. I just want to talk about just my excitement for the future of gaming. You know, it's ever evolving, ever, you know, expanding. We've seen a bunch of different media from the gaming industry. Like, we had Illumination do a Mario movie. Like, who would ever saw that coming? We had, you know, the Sonic trilogy is one of the best-selling, you know, movie series in a very long time. Like, we got theme parks, we got a ton of stuff, and, you know, even on the video game side, like, you're getting a whole bunch of different, you know, developers, indie developers, people going, you know, independent, YouTubers, a lot of people being part of the industry, and just a bunch of talent being able to put these games out. And I do think, like, at some point everyone will come together. Yes, it's competition, everybody wants to be the best and everything like that, but if everybody wants to survive, they're going to have to, they need each other, right? Like, we're going to be bigger partners, and people need to think about that too. With the Xbox expanding to third party, I think it will behoove them to kind of help out these studios as far as, you know, development and things like that. And hopefully, again, everybody can get the budget under control, try to get this layoff situation, never overhire again. That was a whole thing that I hope never happens again in any industry. I don't want people just losing their jobs in masses. We're seeing 500 people, 10,000 people getting laid, not 10,000, you know what I'm saying? Like 1,600 people getting laid off, and then whole studios closing that gave us great games in the past. Like, we at some point will have to get out of that, and I trust it, because it's big business at the end of the day. And if you want to continue making that money, then they're gonna have to figure that out. But that is it for the video. Again, sorry, I didn't want it to be too negative, so I threw some positive stuff in there. But you know, I love video games. I love what it's done for me personally. And I just want the industry to keep thriving and being here for a long time, for other people to enjoy it, make a living for themselves, find some type of entertainment and escape from, you know, all the nonsense that's going on in the world and everything like that. But y'all let me know, again, if you like video games, leave a like on this video, subscribe if you have not already, leave a comment down below on what you like or dislike about the gaming industry today. and I will catch you on the next video.